I chose to live awkwardly for many years. It's a real deconstruction of the self, right? And what we identify with is what makes us worthy. Like we want to show a bunch of stuff for status. But then people say, what do you do? Well, actually, I'm just sort of sitting back and, watching, listening to the trees, really connecting to my womb and just sort of feeling into how I can, honor her wisdom. Like for many people in the beginning, or like 15 years ago, that was like, I truly think that we need to have fun and be playful, and sometimes spirituality can be very serious and it's about getting practices and things right. And I don't know, I found art therapy also like a very healing thing. So this is really for our inner children as well as our mystical selves. It's like for our magical child and adult.
Welcome. In this podcast, I have conversations with women who are building their businesses in their own way. We speak about the paths they've walked, the moments of meeting their edges, and the shifts that followed. These are honest conversations about building, leading, and creating from the inside out, meant to inspire women to unmute their voices and build in ways that are uniquely their own. Today, my guest is Catriona. She has devoted the past 15 years to living in deep relationships with the wisdom of cycles, from the rhythms of the womb to the seasons of the earth and the phases of the moon. What began shortly after the birth of her daughter became a feminine path of wonder, remembrance, and embodied knowing. Through her workshops, online courses, and her book Sacred Seasons, she guides women back to the sacred intelligence of cyclical living. Her work is an invitation to slow down, listen inward, and remember that we were never meant to live disconnected from nature or from our own rhythm. Welcome, Catriona. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you, love. That's a beautiful introduction. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here again.
Yes. So I immediately want to ask you, um, you support women in remembering that we were never meant to live disconnected from nature. Can you share a little bit more about it to make us
Yeah, I
understand
would
what it
I would
means?
perhaps even go one step further and say it's to remembering to live as nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are nature. I think a lot of my work is actually connecting women back to their source
Mm-hmm.
and bringing us back to this feeling of living in harmony
Mm-hmm.
or a right relation with ourselves and recognizing some of those universal truths around the microcosm and the macrocosm, as above, so below, like
Mm-hmm.
recognizing ourselves in that experience with life.
Mm-hmm. So instead of understanding nature as something outside of ourselves that we have a connection with, but recognizing it as something that is completely living inside of us.
Yes, it's our innate nature. It's our innate nature. It is
Yeah.
our true nature. Funny, the word nature is it's just it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess I see from because the other side of my work is doing body work and being a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and the consistent complaints that people come to in sessions is, oh, my neck is tight, my shoulders are tight, I'm stressed, I'm overworked, I'm busy.
Mm-hmm.
Life is full in those ways, and there's often in that a longing,
Mm-hmm.
that longing to have more space and time, and a sense of struggle as to how to create that, know how to own that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's the urge that we feel. We feel that everything is so much. Like you said, this is the way life is organized around us. And we feel it's all so much. And how can we just go back to this nature of ours that is different than the world that we live in?
Yeah, because we've created quite a systemic issue, haven't we, from this like industrialization process that we went through as a
Mm-hmm.
species that's formed us into the current like social cultural dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
which we see take too many resources from the earth and from ourselves and are not no longer sustainable. It becomes evident in our bodies, it becomes evident in the way that humanity is impacting the
Mm-hmm.
ecology of the earth as well. So I really am grateful to have felt and answered within myself this deep call to the knowing that there was a better way or a different way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautiful. And I think the best way for us to understand this and for all the people listening is, could you share your personal life? Well, not your whole personal life, but some examples in your personal life about how you do that, because that's the most inspiring. Witnessing a woman and how she does that for herself in her life and in her business.
Yeah. So for me, a turning point began with charting my menstrual cycle. I'm currently in the perimenopause phase of like sometimes not having a cycle for months, which is also then calling me into a new relationship with this cyclical wisdom. So, but for the last 15 years, being aware of my cycle, being aware of the ebbs and flows of energy
Mm-hmm.
in that from the shifts in hormones and learning how to play with that. I think for me as well, and what I see reflected in people's sense of stress is there doesn't feel enough space for playfulness, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and this can be a very joyful experience, you know, when we meet ourselves with curiosity and we're looking for a playful embodiment of this cyclical, like what does that mean, I guess. And so for me that meant exploring archetypes and thinking of the seasons of the earth. Spring, the earth is easy because you know we the frame of reference we have towards the natural. Yeah, right, it's we're constantly able to be inspired by the beauty of nature, but
Mhm.
so it reflecting that back towards ourselves and considering, you know, like what does spring mean to me? What are these essential um, characteristics of the seasons? And then how can I call upon them as resources to have a more playful life, which can come through in, I guess it's then about accepting ourselves more.
Mhm.
Because when we recognize that there's that continuous flow of transformation available by being, you know, kind of spring seasonal self, a summer, an autumn, and a winter, and the permission to be, you know, that we see it, we're in spring right now. There's that like buzzing life of everything coming back on board, and the sun came out, and we're all more joyful. And allowing that momentum to inspire our work as well. You know, it's the time for new ideas, it's the time for new beginnings. And so, and then summer, you know, it's this time for sort of resting in that deep fertility, right? In our menstrual cycle, that's our ovulation, and how we see that in summertime. It's time to hang out with your friends, time to be really social, time to like lay on the earth in the sun and feel like, ah. And then autumn and winter, they all have their own flavors, right? That like
Mhm.
coming inwards again, like the luteal phase of the cycle, that was like more mysterious quietude of autumn, and then that winter where you just want to hibernate and rest and be cozy and allow ourselves to do that. And of course, we look in modern culture and life, and it's hard to feel permission for that. So I think the greatest thing that I did was give myself permission. Because I felt such a resonance with that. It brought me such a joy. It brought me such a sense of suddenly the wonder that I felt for the natural world was something that applied to me too. And I think often as women, we need to come back to that sense of wonderment towards ourselves because our menstrual cycle and just the way that women are quite often struggling in terms of gender equality means that,
Mhm.
that can seem far away. So this for me was like an access point into remembering that. And as soon as I felt that, I felt like, wow, firstly, I want to live like that. And secondly, I want to allow other women, I want to share that with women. It's important for us.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So by understanding better how you were and who you were in those phases of your cycles and connecting that to the phases of the earth, that just allowed you to surrender more to what was.
My nature.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It was
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, because I think it's very important, especially when we put it in the context of the society that we live in. We are, I mean, just the example of New Year's Eve, New Year's ideology. We are being invited in the middle of the winter to have all those resolutions, which is completely against our nature for men and for women. That doesn't, it's not anything that is related to being a woman.
Yeah.
But and by following those cycles of our of nature, we would really go against that, which is difficult. So
Yeah.
one question I immediately want to jump into with you is, how do you manage to stay close to yourself, to your own truth, to what you know is the best for you, when the world is showing you something else?
For sure. I chose to live awkwardly for many years.
I love it. Yeah, it's an April. Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. Yeah.
I was like, okay, you know what? I sense this is really important. Therefore, and to be honest, perhaps I was blessed with an environment which allowed me to be more so in that my daughter was young. I was primarily focused on raising her. I worked part-time and I lived on a tropical island.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a lot of odds in my favor that allowed me to really take that leap.
Mm-hmm.
And so that meant, if I was bleeding and then like, no, I'm not, I don't want to hang out. No, I can't do that thing. No, like I'm in my moon cave.
Mm-hmm.
And I also luckily like in my community, there was this like emerging curiosity to this too. So the languaging was accepted. Like, so I'm in my moon cave right now. Like that's time for me to rest. And that was hard. Like in the beginning, you get FOMO, you get like agitation.
Yeah.
There's like nowhere it's and yeah, for sure, some people are like, whatever, So it's about building also that resilience, isn't it?
Yes.
To
Mm-hmm.
other people's also opinions. And of course, now I've been living in Europe for the last few years, and that is not something I can always afford to do with my employers because I
Mm-hmm.
sometimes work with people and they don't necessarily understand that. So it's also about just having a deep well of compassion for
Mm-hmm.
myself and the desire. And sometimes there's a gap. But even
Yeah.
if there's a gap and I'm bleeding, I make sure that I wear my red earrings or my red lingerie and I do something that signifies to my system that I'm honoring that. And then, with my blood, I give it to the garden or I paint with it or I like create also a sacred relationship with my blood. And I do workshops for women around that too. And I think, that's a deep essence of ours. So like
Yeah.
when we can meet our blood in a way that can sincerely say, I know you to be precious, I know you to be life-giving. I think that's like repatterning our matrix, our field on such a deep level. Like that's a great place to start, right?
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you give that example, because the most important is you acknowledging yourself, is you honoring that moment in your cycle or that phase that you are going through. And then, because that's how we are function, we choose to live in this society, so there are some things that we choose to be part of, and there are some moments that we will have to set our priorities differently. And how do we still keep connected to that which is so important to us, which is self-leadership, actually.
Yeah,
I might
exactly.
bring it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what I found fascinating, what my experience was of syncing with my cycle was that then when I made that, when I set that intention, and I was speaking to the universe as I do, and desiring to explore what that meant, I found that a naturally external experience lined up to meet me there. So I would be invited to do new things in the spring time of my cycle, and in the summertime, like events started to correlate, so that was a busy time for me.
Yeah,
So sometimes it was through like a yang action on my part, an intentional like choice to sculpt it. And other times it was just reflected from life, the opportunity to live it.
mm-hmm. Exactly. Sometimes when you just align to that cycle, which I've also experienced, so more connected to one of the archetypes of the feminine ways, you notice that the world around you automatically adjusts to that, which is just it's so amazing. Yeah.
And don't you think like maybe this is the key, like foundation or like hopeful point to give to all women? It's like trust when you sincerely want that, you will be met there by life, because life really is here to support us.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautifully said. So tell me, um, is have you always been living in that way? Is that always been the way you did life? Were you weird from the beginning? Well,
No,
or
100% not, right? 100%
no,
not. Yeah.
I'm saying weird. I wanna just,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes we can feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Pioneering.
Beautiful. Yes.
Hmm.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Spoken like a true Aries. No, definitely not. I mean, I used contraception, right? I took the pill from when I was about 16 until I was about 24. And I
Mhm.
would say within those years of my life, I was living in that very normative way where, in fact, your period is a bit annoying. In fact, PMS, and there's not that tenderness to like, oh, I'm actually suffering a bit with a sore belly. Like maybe that's an invitation from my body to really tune into it. It was
Mhm.
like, oh, I've got a sore belly. How annoying. I'm not functioning properly. Like, oh, I need to take a paracetamol, or I just need to get on. I was living very much in that place, and because of other life experiences, yeah, a little bit chaotic. And yeah, it took some really like harsh life experience for me, and beauty, it was a combination of, also I'm into astrology, so it came somewhere around my Saturn return, which
Mhm.
is that time from like 24 to 27, 29. There's like that
Okay.
those years where Saturn is asking us to look at our karma and either come
Mhm.
through to our dharma or stay in the karma. And I, I lost a child. I had a son and he died. Was a
Mhm.
premature baby. I was very chaotic after that. I I had a lot of substance addiction in my like from my throughout my 20s, and so this towards the end of my 20s. And with something like a substance addiction, like the cycle that you're in is definitely not a very connected one to your body, because for all intents and
Mhm.
purposes, although it feels like self-care, you are contaminating your body, and trying to numb out in a
Yes,
way.
it's a way of numbing. Exactly. That's the words that came into my mind. You want to numb, you want to get out of your body
Yeah.
instead of
So
connecting to her.
yeah, I guess I was in some struggles there for a decade. And then I lost my son, and I did deep dive into like post trauma from that.
Mm-hmm.
But 1 year later, I was pregnant with my daughter, with the same father. And then had my daughter, and at a certain not so long, when she was very young, when she was about 6 months old, I realized I didn't feel like the relationship patterns I was in were serving me anymore to be the best role model and healthy mother that I
Mm-hmm.
wanted her to see.
Mm-hmm.
So with that desire to want to be my best self in order to honor like her, to be her best self.
Mm-hmm.
I I took a step out of the relationship I was in and grounded back in the UK for a while, and took a meditation course, and like there was something in me. I was like, okay, if I really want to be this woman for my child and then for me, what is the thing that's most innately
Mm-hmm.
woman?
Mm-hmm.
And it came back to my body, and it came back then to my cycle, and that was kind of this moment where I did a Moon Lodge course, and I looked and discovered different teachers of mine. I worked for a while with Miranda Gray. She has this womb blessing movement. I did some Tao
Mm-hmm.
Tantric arts practices with Minka DeVos and Shashi Shaluna. So there was this then process of diving in and learning and feeling inspired
Mm-hmm.
mm, and all of that then came together in a way that I felt I could weave from all of those teachers and experiences that I'd had something then that was a combination of many things that I could then offer to women as a consequence of like funneling something into something like, oh
Mm-hmm.
look, I found a bunch of cool stuff. let's look at it and let's, you know, come come back to a deeper love and a deeper connection and a deepening with ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to hear that the pull forward to be a mother and woman of a certain caliber, what you wanted to bring, that really infused your growth. I don't think it's a good word because it's even, there's always growth, but this accepting the invitation to really move
Evolve,
towards,
no?
yes, and evolve, exactly. And also I hear it's your dharma, it's your life work. Can I say it like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say it like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. And if you can name a few things, maybe three or four, that you would think this is really something that from the moment I chose for that woman as the mother of my daughter, a few things that you completely did differently, maybe in life or in building your business or maybe in relationships even.
Mm. I began listening more to
Mm-hmm.
myself. And of course, you know, there's so much when you tune in to start to listen to. So that practice of listening and like following that cyclical map, if you will, and being the awkward person. Those those things that was definitely things I did differently. I work a lot with Reiki, and I have a Reiki teacher, and we were also exploring is because this was about coming home to my intuition, right, as well. Like a lot of this stuff starts with an external person giving some inspiration and a map and a way of viewing something, but then how to live it, like we all going to do that differently. We all have a
Yes.
completely different inner compass, and spring, summer, like these mean different things to different people in a nuanced way. So then it was a question of playing with my intuition. And so that for me meant looking at the world more shamanically or symbolically and again, connecting more deeply to my place in nature and playing my part in this like symbiotic relationship with this biosphere, and connecting to yeah a listening and signs and signals, synchronicities, I guess, opening to synchronicities and a conversation with life in that way. And that's been profound as well.
Yes. I hear you. What I hear in between the lines is not, there's less proactiveness, I'm gonna say. And I'm going to do this in order to create this in my life. But what I hear you saying is, I'm going to allow this in order for this to open up for my life.
Yeah, right. Which I think is one of the antidotes to this intensely yang world that we live in. It's to
Yeah,
come back to the yin, isn't it? And that
exactly.
feminine,
Yeah.
wild wisdom that is sometimes very challenging for the cognitive mind,
Yes.
where
Yeah.
we've been overtrained, right? Where our cognitive minds are so overburdened.
And it's also something that we inherit from our
Yeah.
parents, that we
Yeah, yeah.
inherit from the generations before us, and that's all based on lack, and it's all based on wars and on, how we've been doing society for millions and millions of years. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's challenging to
Well, it's a
step forward in a different way. Yeah.
because it's a real deconstruction of the self, right? And what we identify with is what makes us worthy, or what we like show to people. Like, when people say, what do you do? And no, 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 and then you present a bunch of stuff, but um and from what we've inherited and conditioned into, like, we want to show a bunch of stuff for status. But
Yes.
then people say, what do you do? Well, actually, I'm just sort of sitting back and, watching, listening to the trees, really connecting to my womb, and just sort of feeling into how I can, honor her wisdom. Like, for many people in the beginning, or like 15 years ago, that was like, there was no knowing how to meet that, how to.
Well, exactly. And still now in our days, people, when you share something like this, most people will not know how to react.
Mm,
Maybe they hear it a little bit more. I know personally that I've gathered a lot of people around me that are the same as me. So I
yeah,
don't feel like I'm misplaced anymore. But when I go back into certain social circles just before, because I have a
yeah,
variety of friends, and just because some people are just different than I am,
yeah.
I still find it a little bit challenging to stay completely true to myself, because fear of judgment maybe, or just not wanting to be inadequate maybe, or whichever reasons. I mean, yeah, so
I understand you. And recently, I also find, because where I used to live in Thailand, that was the dominant conversation. Was a lot of this self-exploration, discovering new ways, coming back to ancient
yeah.
wisdoms, and really uh, having space for that. But now I'm back in Europe, I discover that it's so in me, and because there's like a genuine excitement in me about like how transformative and how important this is, like, I can't help but talk about it. It's like I get into it, and when I'm into it, there's like this like fountain
Yes.
of yeah, joy. Play gives me pleasure, to really be in that.
I love it, and it is very important. So let's dive a little bit in what you do.
Yeah,
I shared in the beginning that you have workshops, you have a book, and you also have online courses.
yeah.
Can you share a little bit about the essence of everything that you offer, or is it
Uh,
all very various?
No, I think the essence of all of it is what we were just sort of pointing to in that last bit of the conversation, about slowing down, about the intuitive living, the yin, the listening, and the cycles. Like my book,
Mhm.
which I wrote last year, or created. It's like a self-reflective journaling book with coloring in pages, because I truly think that, like, we need to have fun and be playful, and sometimes spirituality can be very serious, and it's about getting practices and things right. And I don't know, I found art therapy also like a very healing thing. So this is really for our inner children as well as our mystical selves. It's like for our magical child and adult. Um, and it's very much about, because I'm part of the reason I moved back to Europe was to reconnect to my roots. So I'm Scottish, Bulgarian. So I'm from these lands, and I feel very connected to these Celtic origins. So it works with the wheel of the year. So the equinoxes, solstices, all the festivals, and the different goddesses and gods that kind of weave in and out through that. Again, working with those archetypes. And again, it's just that invitation for us to honor our ancestral heritage that has that wisdomfulness of how to live in right relation with the earth as part of that cycle. And, really to come back into a humility with life, because I feel like that's really the medicine for the times. So at the moment, I'm piloting a book group with friends of mine on this, where we're then having sister circles, and we're really going in guided journeys with the different elemental and creatures and gods and goddesses and the themes. And it's amazing, and it's helping me. I'm almost like re-editing the book as I go, because I'm getting so much deep wisdom from like living it. So I wrote it because I wanted to connect to my ancestral things, and now I'm living it to see how it maps out.
Perfect. Yes.
So I have that, and that's a year-long journey. And then I have this monthly journeys that I do with the cycle, where we work for a moon cycle. And we start on one, maybe a dark moon, and we work through from the winter back to another winter. And that then is working also with this term of like from reconnecting to nature. And there's altar building, there's a lot of movement stuff in that, with like dancing. I have playlists for them both, one for the book, one for the course, because for me, very much like embodiment, one of the funnest ways to do that is through dance and movement.
Exactly, because with movement, we move everything that is present and available to us in the body. We move it, and then we can also start to understand it,
Yeah.
which is also just basically something hurting somewhere, which is something that you also might be um, able to notice when doing body work or Reiki. When something gets stuck in the body, it creates pain and eventually illnesses. And when we just on a daily basis, based on the cycles, just move it, we also enable ourselves to understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then just there's more space in us, isn't there, through that movement? Like, part of the issue of such a lot of modern day life is the stagnation we get for having to sit for so long.
Yeah.
So with movement practice, and also because I'm a facilitator of these Tao Tantric arts, so there's then a lot of sensuality and sexual practices for women, cultivating a deeper, kinder, and more juicy, loving relationship to our female bodies. And, there are practices which go well at different phases of the cycle. So
Yeah.
I really love to tune women into, what can even further support their hormones and the energy flow of the cycle with the Tao Tantric practices, as well as some meditations, and just this beautiful, like, devotional way of being with ourselves and tending to our natural wisdom and our innate rhythms. I
Yeah.
think we all deserve that, but it has to come in a way. It has to just come from us. We have to stop waiting for that to be given to us by a culture which is trapped in a system that doesn't honor that.
Beautiful. Definitely honoring the body of the woman, the way the woman wants to move, and the
Mm.
way everything that is available to us, because we are so cut off from it. So yeah, I heard you speaking about doing some work with your blood.
Mm.
Would you mind sharing a little bit more about this? Because I know it's out there. I know it's something that many of our listeners might be curious about. How do
For
you,
sure.
yes, how is that something that is taken into your work?
Yeah, so I currently work twice a year at a festival called the Ode and the Yoni, which is
Mhm.
created by two sisters, two Dutch sisters that I know, one of whom's a really dear friend. And so they invite me to the festival and I host the Red Tent space.
Mhm.
And the Red Tent was traditionally the bleeding space for women in more ancient times or tribal times, where each village
Okay.
would have a red tent, which would be because before there was electricity, the strongest light at night was the moon. And so the moon regulated women to mostly bleed together
Mhm.
because that's our circadian rhythm, right? Or this,
Yes.
so to be in the most natural rhythm, aligned with the light of the moon, meant that as communities, and I don't know if you notice this when you're good friends with people or in a family, like the women bleed together.
Yes. We
So
align. Yeah.
then, in those more matriarchal honoring cult times, like the women would get to go to a restful place where they could perhaps hear stories from the older women and be initiated into this time, which is a dreaming time for us, which is a time for us to really. I don't know if also you probably notice you're more sensitive when you're bleeding. No
Mhm.
noise, sound, like the external world can seem jarring
Mhm.
when actually our womb is there open in this deep portal. Like that's the blood of every woman on your lineage before and after. And that's
Mhm.
the same blood that all women are bleeding on the earth. Like the wisdom fullness, like that crone energy, that wise woman that lives in the core of all of us is at that
Mhm.
moment. Like we're so able to move between the realms at that point and really tune into deeper wisdom. So then, as in tribal times when that was available as a community, the women would receive, it would almost be like an oracular place where once you'd been in that red tent and in that cave time with yourself, you would come out with the wisdom of knowing what the next steps for the next cycle needed to be. And, that could be on that level about crops to be planted or, the ways that the community needed to move forward together. And so, of course, nowadays we can also use that in our own lives, in our own projects, when we have
Mhm.
that restful time to receive that wisdom. So, anyway, that was a slight divergence. I'm
Yeah.
hosting this
No,
red
no, no. It's
tent
okay. It was in a context and introduction.
context.
Perfect. Yeah.
So I host that space. I make this beautiful space, which is like a lot of red velvet and candles and incense and oracle cards. And it's like a really roomy, cozy space at the festival where women can come to. And then a few workshops are hosted there as well and tea ceremonies. And so my workshops in that space are things like menstrual blood art.
Mhm.
So I invite, and we have a chalice on the altar where women can leave their menstrual blood.
Mhm.
So it's very much front and center of the experience. And then we can paint with our blood, also using a process of self inquiry.
Mhm.
So, really exploring our relationship with our blood through a guided journey and painting that out as well. So, we then have almost like an altarpiece for ourselves with our blood, which is, in fact, our life journey with that and our highest visions of that. So that's one of the workshops I hosted. And then this year, because the festival was in the spring, and so we're working with that maiden energy, I
Yeah.
decided like, we should do something to do like a kind of menarche, a rite of passage, and talk about how it was for us with our first bloods, what was missing, what was challenging, what was there, like, to really, because again, that's not always something coming together as women to talk about these things takes away some of the loneliness, right? Takes away some of that inner, like being like unsupported in our journey with our menstrual cycle. So we did a big sharing on that. We did this ritual with tying red red thread around our wrists with
Hmm.
prayers in it and highest visions. And then we made a land offering with the blood to the land, and also put our prayers for humanity, like into the blood, into the land. Like there's a, like the blood is mostly water. Well, not mostly, but it has, it's a liquid, and
It's a liquid, yes.
water carries memory, water carries frequency. So when you hold it and speak intentions and prayers into that and then offer that to the earth, it's like a status update from you to the earth,
Yeah.
saying like, this is what I'm here for, this is what I'm calling in, this is what I want to stand for. How can, and then life will again show you that back if you're
Yeah.
open
Yeah.
to receiving it. So things like that.
And I think it's very important to have those moments where we come into sisterhood and creating those moments where we connect and share, and where we remember that we all feel the same, and feel the same. We go through the same cycles, and our bodies respond in different way, but we engage in the same way with our cycles and our blood flow.
Yeah.
And so important to share about it
Yeah.
with each other. And what I hear you say that is so important in order to be able to carry this in our daily life and to bring it into the wide world is the intention with which we do things.
Yeah. And
Intentionally creating.
intentionally, and with some elements of ritual, right?
Mhm,
Ritual is
mhm,
also a very ancient way which speaks to the like the Jungian subconscious, this archetypal mind. When we do certain things, and we have certain steps as we do something, like with a candle, with that moment of mindfulness, and then with the intention, as you say, of creating a sacred relationship or whatever, then that in itself, every time we do it, we're building the resonance in the field of like, this is that moment. And that is also doing very interesting things with the subconscious and really providing also a lot of fertile ground for transforming and alchemizing places which are feeling outside of that, like calling them in, calling us all back in.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. What is your vision for the world? What is that world that you want to give to your daughter? And via the
Oh,
work that you do to the daughters of the world and the sons, because they are connected,
yeah,
but yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Because I think it's about space, about
Mhm.
taking up more space,
Mm.
reclaiming space with this,
Yeah.
and that not being a taboo subject, that not being a side story. Like also at the festival, I sometimes hold a circle for abortions and miscarriages and lost children. And there are big topics for women around menstruation, around childbirth, around, and not even, and around allowing ourselves to be our full spectrum self,
Mm-hmm.
as changeable as the moon and as varied and as beautiful as all the seasons of the earth. And I think it's just about like sticking my, standing. I mean, like, this needs more space in people's lives,
Yeah. Yes.
and that will benefit all of us.
Yeah.
Like I actually have a petition on Change.org, which is something around
Yeah.
wanting to have womb rooms in public places.
Oh, yes.
Where women could come for free menstrual products, information, a cup of tea, like, if you start bleeding when you're out and about. Because actually, all humans come from a womb.
We do.
So when the womb is held, when the womb is acknowledged in her rightful place and has a felt sense of being honored and protected and loved, like humanity cannot help but benefit, because all babies will grow up in a space that feels like, like it's in its right place.
Yes, and also allowing us to embrace everything that has to do with the cycle, with the womb, with that part of womanhood to be more normal,
Yeah.
to be like, I don't want to use the word normalized because that makes it like it's something very plain, and it's not plain, but just making it as a normal part of our life
Yeah.
to that it's as you because as you said, we were all born from a womb. We all are deeply and intimately connected to those wombs,
Yeah.
to the womb that birthed us, that
Yeah.
created us. And then in society, there's so much shame that is put on there, on everything that has to do with the womb. We don't talk about sex, we don't talk about bleeding, we don't talk about, but we just don't talk about it. And by normalizing it and making it a subject that we can embrace and see as a normal subject, we will also allow ourselves to reconnect to that innate place where we come from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you
Mm.
so much for your time.
Hmm.
Is there something that you would like to add for our listeners? Is that something about your work that you want to add?
I mean, I will in the fall. So after the busyness of summer where we're all going to be out and about and social and holidaying, in the fall, I will do a sacred cycle
Mhm.
online journey.
Okay.
So if people are curious to, sort of explore this in a direct way with me, they can always follow me on some of the socials that you put in
Yes.
the link, and then they will be up to date on how and when that's emerging. And there is a link to my book also in my socials. Maybe I can give you one too. And also just I do mentorship, if people want a
Mhm.
one-on-one journey, that can be very precious. I get very nice feedback from women who have that time so that I can really guide them in practices which feel directly relevant to their personal situation, to help them reconnect to their bodies and
Mhm.
wisdoms. I'm really available for that, or just conversation. If this is like sparked interest, curiosity, question, and you want to reach out, like
Yes.
I welcome that. And
I love that.
otherwise, just
Yeah.
take it as I hope it sparks inspiration
Yeah.
within people. The conversation that we're having, I'm really grateful for you for opening this space and the field and the time for this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. You're so welcome. And I love this invitation. If anything that Catriona shared or that we spoke about inspires you or lightens a spark, please just let her know. Send her a message, an email, or on social media, because that's so, so, so important to know that what we share and what we speak about, what we do is touching,
Yeah,
touching someone. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Such a pleasure. Yeah, such a pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye, love.